Margins are seen up 21.3%. Profits on an adjusted basis are also seen up nearly 1%.
The good part today, though, is the mid-cap index is seeing a fair amount of recovery from the lows at the high point of trade, the gain of almost 112 points.
Even market was actually below us. So the number is I would say, an unfavorable surprise.
Negotiations from our end are over. We've given the best possible deal. It's up to Donald Trump to sign it.
See a recovery, a sharp one from the lows of the day, almost a 150-point uptick, but then that was sold into as well.
Okay, well, markets off highs by quite a bit. It's a triple-digit cut on the Nifty once again. This is Closing Bell. We're coming to you live from the CNBC-TV18 News studios. I'm Prashant, Rima and Nigel with me. Guys, hi. Afternoon.
Hi, afternoon. 1 hour to go, and then tomorrow it's a holiday on account of BMC elections. So, guys, everyone out there, please go out and vote if you are in Mumbai. But it's disappointing because we breached yesterday's intraday low. The low today was 25,590. So yesterday's low has been taken out. IT is struggling. The Nifty IT index is down 1.5%. And that all-important Supreme Court verdict, I mean, that's also looming over global markets.
Yep. Well, that's right, Rima. That piece of advice, the bars are shut, the markets are shut, the banks are shut.
Go vote.
Go vote. Go vote. No Twitter, no LinkedIn, no Instagram after this. Vote. Make your vote count. Have faith in the system. And cast your vote. But that's some advice at the side. For the markets, I think today I'll be keeping an eye on the FI number. You know, they say this because stocks like HDFC Bank, if you just pull up the intraday chart, the fall in the last 30 minutes is because of this big boy. You know, HDFC Bank should come up for you on the screen. Just take a look at that. That one's seen a sharp decline. It's moving below some crucial technical levels. And Reliance Industries, I think that one as well deserves special focus because it's hovering around the 200 EMA. You don't want it to breach this particular mark on a closing basis. 25,604, that's the low of the day. The bulls will want to see a bit of rebound from here as the Sensex weekly expiry does play out.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, we'll talk more about this, right? Whatever is happening now, but can Friday look very different? If, it's a big if. I mean, last time it didn't happen. I mean, actually, the case never did not see a ruling. The ruling will come at some point. And there is a lot of chatter that the ruling will come today evening, US markets. So if it happens, I mean, I still think, I mean, it's not priced in and we can see a big reaction here in India as well, a big positive reaction here in India. I mean, if it does come through. So, but it has to come first, right? I mean, and we don't know if it will. No guarantees in that sense. Well, let me just quickly run you through what's lined up here. On the program. So markets, of course, 25,620 right now. Significant outperformance from the broader market. Small caps are outshining the mid caps today. Splendid gains in metals. And metals is going to be a lot of the talking we'll do in the next 60 minutes or so. State-owned banks were also upbeat in trade today. So the PSU bank space looking good. And I mean, the one name which, of course, is shining through is Vedanta. So we'll decode the move on that particular counter in just a bit from now. Union Bank reported numbers. So some fine print there. RBL, of course, announcing a 50 basis point cut in savings deposit. So, and you know, there's enough and more news flow in that sense, which we will cover. Infosys numbers later today. And Rima will set us up with a preview as far as expectations go. How should you position yourself? Mitesh is with us with that answer. Mitesh, afternoon, thank you very much. I mean, it's a decisive turn lower and maybe slightly surprising because you've got this, I think it's a big one later today if the ruling comes, and it may change the mood on Friday. So for those trading, I reckon one should be careful. But what's your advice in terms of taking fresh positions here?
Yeah. Prashant, I think, you know, in the morning also I mentioned that this is a structure which is not very good. And there's a good chance of us retesting these levels of 25,400 in a bad case scenario, even 25,310, 320. So the idea is, you know, to sell closer to the supply pivots, which is 25,900, 950 zones. Today we got a high of around 25,790. So we haven't taken any aggressive short positions. We have some put option spreads on stocks as well as indices. But that's about it. So for the time being, I think, you know, I would want to trade either at the upper end of the range, which is what I prefer, or in a bad case scenario, in case we decline to 25,400 first, then look for some long opportunities over there. Till then, it's a market which doesn't give you a very conviction very convincing trading setup in terms of risk reward equation. So therefore, trading can be more stock specific, and if the bank Nifty starts breaking below levels of 58,900, 58,880, then I think that could suggest that the Nifty will decline as well. So I'm keeping a close watch on the bank Nifty as well. But for the time being, on the index, we're somewhere right in the middle of the range.
Mitesh, hi, afternoon. What about stocks?
On the stock side, I have a buy on Dalmia Bharat. That's a stock which is near the day's high. Keep a stop at 21.49, look for targets of 22.30. And similarly, Angel One is also near the day's high. That's a buy with a stop at 24.70 for targets of 25.80.
Got that. Thank you very much for that. The other bit of news point that people will be watching is the meeting regarding Greenland's future. So there is a meeting between US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Greenlandic and Danish officials today, with stocks set to focus on what happens to Greenland in light of Donald Trump's repeated advances towards acquiring Greenland. So may not be as market moving as or decisive as maybe the Supreme Court ruling on tariffs, but the spotlight will also be on the headlines coming out of what happens to Greenland and whether there is any sort of a midway or truce. But let's talk about metals. And in that, Vedanta is surging in trade today on the back of the bullish Nuvama note. Let's understand the key triggers at play for Vedanta. Nigel?
Well, the big question is what's working for Vedanta, right? Commodity melt up due to a variety of factors like, the weaker dollar, the global supply, demand mismatch. The company also has some valuation support. And the demerger, well, that's expected to unlock value even from here. First, on the valuation front, the company's total enterprise value is approximately 3.3 lakh crore, which includes a debt of close to around 62,000 crores. And going by consensus estimate, the EBITDA should scale to around 60,000 crores in FY27, which means the stock trades at roughly around 5.4 times EV upon EBITDA. But Nuvama, they are more optimistic on the company's prospects. They are estimating that the next year's EBITDA number should be in the vicinity of around 74,000 crores. And so they've increased their estimates, the EBITDA estimates, by 17 to around 8% to factor in higher commodity prices, cost reduction in aluminium backed by volume growth in international zinc as well as in the power business. Hence, they are assuming that the EBITDA CAGR over the next few years will be close to around 20%. Let's tell you who contributes most to around the 74,000 crore rupees EBITDA number. The largest contribution comes in from the aluminium business, which is followed by zinc, of which Hindustan Zinc contributes close to 90%, which is followed by smaller verticals, oil and gas, power and the likes. There is also a mild negative EBITDA number that's been factored in for the copper business that's shut. The street will also not just have one listed entity, but they'll have 5 separate listed companies. And on expected lines, well, the aluminium business accounts for bulk of the SOTB, which includes the company's 51% stake in Balco, which is followed by Vedanta Limited, which houses that, Hindustan Zinc, and bulk of the entity's value comes in from this 62% stake in Hindustan Zinc. Nuvama, well, they value Vedanta's steel and iron business on a replacement cost basis. Nuvama points out that the current CMP doesn't fully factor in even the aluminium and the zinc business. So they are driving that the other businesses are available for virtually free. Remember, Mr. Anil Agarwal spoke to me here on CNBC-TV18 just last month, and he said he believes the demerger should be completed by March, April 2026. So that's the big story with regard to Vedanta. It's got valuation support. It's, well placed to participate in this melt up that we're seeing, in prices, and also it has that demerger that's awaited. Well, let's get in our guest then. We have Deven Choksi, MD at DR Choksi FinServ, who joins us on the show. Hi, Deven. Good afternoon. Good to see you in. What's your view on Vedanta? You have been bullish in the past. What do you believe the stock does from here? In the last 6 months, it's up 50%. More to go?
Yes, Nigel. Good afternoon. Well, I think it only validates few points. I think the white metal demand continues to remain very, very strong in the world market. Both the aluminium as well as zinc, I think they remain, firm as far as the price outlook is concerned. And going forward as well, was the demerger, which you spelled out so nicely. I believe that the valuation re-rating could take place in this particular space. So frankly, I think the smaller businesses who are not contributing enough, I think they deserve to get probably, off the books at some point of time, once the demerger process is completed. But the main important business, the cash cows, the zinc as well as the aluminium, they are likely to show up and probably, I think, re-rate the business. In my viewpoint, even today also, if I look at the sum of the part valuation with, I think, revised outlook on the metal prices, I find that I think 750 price, I think, is not difficult for this particular company to achieve. And I think current valuations support this particular view.
Okay. That's the view coming in on Vedanta. HDFC AMC's numbers flashing for you on your screen. On the bottom line, net profit coming in at 760 crore, ahead of the consensus expectation of 730 crore. And just going by the revenue and the bottom line, it looks like a very steady compounding sort of a performance this time. 15 to 20% coming through on the 20% on the bottom line, 15% on the company's top line. The street likes the numbers. The stock is moving up 4.5%. Devin, quick word on HDFC AMC. And now we've also got ICICI, which listed recently, its competitor. Between the two, which one do you prefer? And any early thoughts on the Q3 numbers?
Well, Rima, I think the numbers are definitely, I think, steady set of numbers. And I think, as you rightly use the word, they're compounding well as far as the business is concerned, systematically growing the AUM book at the same time, I think, the profits of the company. Difficult to answer the question between HDFC and ICICI, but I think on the numbers, probably I think ICICI AMC looks relatively more convincing, given the kind of advantage that they are having in from different products, of course, but at the same time, I think the balance sheet, the kind of profitability ratio that they command, probably I think they deserve to remain a little ahead of HDFC, at least at this point of time, in my viewpoint. So yes, both are equally important business, growing at a steady pace, of course, but I think the numbers support ICICI AMC at this point of time.
Got that. Some numbers came through, right? I mean, you had Union Bank, which reported numbers, and the stock's up. PSU banks are expected to post a stronger set as compared to their private sector peers. Let's go across to Gaurav for the fine print. Gaurav, take it away.
Well, yes, if you look at Union Bank numbers, those are actually better than what the street is expecting. So let's first go through the numbers. If you look at advances and deposit growth, that was actually not that great. In fact, both the numbers were in single digit. But apart from that, net interest income, that actually remained flat on a year-on-year basis, but it was 3% ahead of the street's expectation. When it comes to PPOP, now that has increased just by 2% on a sequential basis. Again, 4 to 5% ahead of the street's expectation. And a key thing here is that the provisions, now they have declined almost by 76% on a sequential basis. And as a result, if you look at profit, that increased almost by 18%. Now, this is something which came as a very big positive surprise, because this number that has come as profitability is around 10 to 15% ahead of the street's expectation. Now, there is another thing to highlight here. First is that net interest margins, they have increased almost by 9 basis points on a sequential basis. The credit cost, as a result of provisions which have declined, credit cost also declined almost by 13 basis points, and an impact of both these things was seen on the ROAs. They have improved almost by 19 basis points, and now the ROA stands at around 1.35%. Again, when it comes to asset quality, gross NPAs, they have declined almost by 23 basis points, and the key reason is that if you look at fresh slippages, they remain stable, and at the same time, write-offs, they actually declined on a sequential basis. As a result, we saw some asset quality improvement. And even when it comes to the deposit growth, although the deposit growth remained stable on a sequential basis, in fact, it was a decline of 1%. If you look at CASA ratio, that has improved almost by 140 basis points on a sequential basis. Now, given this is actually a tough environment for CASA, the bank actually is growing their CASA ratio. Second is that they are also improving their asset quality. And if you look at the valuation also, it trades at 1.1 time price to book. All these factors actually give a reason for market to share the stock. As a result, we saw the stock increasing more than 5% in a trade today.
7% now. RBL Bank is the other one, right? I mean, they've cut interest rates on savings account deposits by 50 basis points. Gaurav, implications?
Well, if you look at RBL Bank, they have actually cut their peak savings account deposit rate almost by 50 basis points from 6.5% to 6%. Now, this is applicable for the deposits which will be under category of 25 lakhs to 3 crores. If you look at the overall implication of this, savings account contribute almost 17% of their total deposit, and at the same time, analysts believe that this can actually improve, this can actually lead to 3 basis point improvement in net interest margins, and at the same time 3% growth in earnings as well. Apart from that, analysts are also a bit bullish on the fact that we may see further savings account rate cuts, and there are two reasons for that. First is that they believe that the spread between the RBL Bank and mid-size banks, the spread between the savings account rate is still more than 100 basis points. that means that there is actually further room for rate cut. And at the same time, second is that I've already seen Emirates NBD is actually going to invest money in RBL Bank, and given that there is a scope of another re-rating from credit rating agencies, we may see further decrease in the savings account rate. Apart from that, let's also not forget that this is actually the second bank in a row. We recently saw IDFC First Bank cut their savings account rate almost in the range of 25 to 200 basis points, and now RBL Bank has come up with the rate cuts. As a result, if you look at the stock performance, here also we saw some cheer from the market in a day-to-day.
Okay, all right. Thanks a lot for that, Gaurav. Deven, the big theme actually of the last few months has been this big gush of money that smaller banks, NBFCs as well, are seeing. From here on, what would you be positive on? Because that still seems to be a consensus buy. Which stock would you prefer?
So on one side, I think the battery of banks and NBFC stocks, including the public sector banks of small and mid-size, available at a valuation which is far more cheaper comparatively. I think they're quoting most of them are around 1 time or below 1 time in some cases. I think the price to book value. So on valuation part, I think unarguably, I think they are cheaper. However, when you look at, I think the credit growth that they are reporting versus, I think the credit growth reported by some of the larger NBFCs, I think, who are basically catering to the consumer end of spending, I guess I think that is where probably the difference lies. While these banks are growing at a single digit, they are relatively in a better situation at this point of time, I think, converting their NPAs as well, those smaller ones. Vis-a-vis the larger ones, like I think the Bajaj Finance in NBFC space, or even for that matter, Geo Credit, if you look at the numbers, are expanding well. Even Bajaj Housing Finance, I think the numbers compared to other housing finance companies, they remain pretty strong in the growth is concerned. Almost 3 times the growth of, I think, some of the larger companies which are there as their peers. So in my viewpoint, I think the clear differentiators are going to be the one who are using the technology and adding to the credit growth with the efficiency part. I think they would be a clear differentiator. And this is where probably I think some of these companies would stand tall compared to their other peers in the market.
Deven, Dixon Technology, earlier in the morning, Upasana was telling us about a Phillip Capital note where they've highlighted that how volumes from Motorola, which is Dixon's largest client, has declined by 20% in Q3 of FY26. And the company Dixon has a lot of dependence on Motorola because it accounts for 45% of its overall revenue. Now, Dixon was down 5% yesterday. It opened up in the green, so there was some relief. But now if you pull up that intraday chart, the stock is again dipped. So selling has come through again. Any analysis on the news on Dixon?
Well, I think not in particular about the news, but I think we would like to put across a viewpoint that the valuations are assuming that the company will continuously grow at 35 to 40% rate of growth. Now, this is not going to be a certain guarantee that I think you are going to get this 35-40% rate of growth on a year-over-year basis. I think in past you have done that. I think it will be difficult for them to maintain that. And given this kind of news, I would think that I think there is no scope for any kind of error. There is no scope for margin of error, as I would like to put it as. So, frankly, would be very careful about, I think, the higher valuations at which the stock is quoting. Business is not bad, but certainly, I think the valuations are not comforting for buying those kind of companies.
The other one is Tata Elxsi, where the Q3 numbers are fine, but on account of high valuation, the stock is corrected nearly 5%. Tata Elxsi trades at valuations of 43, 45 times forward multiple, and for a company which this year, according to some estimates, may even degrow or at least have a flat top-line growth. So valuations, according to many analysts, suggest these are premium valuations. I think Hormus was telling me that there are 18 analysts who track Tata Elxsi, and out of them, 12 of them have a sell call. Yeah, there you have it. 4 of them have a hold call. So 16 out of 18 don't expect any upside in Tata Elxsi. And the key reason appears to be on the valuation front, 43 times, 45 times. Expensive compared to, say, a KPIT Tech, which is trading at 35 times.
That's interesting, right? You said numbers are good.
Numbers are fine. Decent, at least Q3 right? Is fine.
So I think that is the problem with the earlier one that you mentioned, Dixon as well. Dixon, of course, has got a bit of a problem in any case, earnings growth, etc. Compared to 25 over 24 was fantastic. 26 will slow down. 27 perhaps picks up a little bit. But I think it's a general kind of a statement that when you are looking at many of these stocks down 30, 40, 50%, and you say, well, now it's become attractive. The P multiples are still, they've come off sharply, but then, expect the re-rating now from here after falling to be on account of P multiple expansion. I think that's going to be hard to come by. So it's like a twin engine aircraft. One is, one engine is P multiple, the other is earnings. And I think the P multiple expansion story is stalled very clearly across the board. So it's basically a single engine aircraft now. And I think earnings have to pick up, as many have been pointing out. And I think this is a story across the board. We can look at sector after sector and company after company in that sense. 25,700. Look at the market, right? I mean, where we started, I think there is a bit of a recovery which has come through. And why not? I mean, if anything, if you're trading, you should be kind of neutralish going into the event today evening, if there is an event, and not negative, not overtly positive either. But so that's a recovery basically from 230 onwards. What we've seen, almost a 75, 80 odd point bounce is what we've seen in the last 15, 20 odd minutes of trade.
A lot of stocks actually, Prashant, from the broader markets that have really spiked up. Jupiter Wagons, all of a sudden, that stock from the broader markets had spiked up. Hariom Pipes as well, that's another one that's moving higher on decent volumes as well. So a big move is what you're seeing on some of these names. So there is a recovery in the broader markets. And JTL Industries, I think during closing bell for the last 3 days, we have seen a recovery in that stock. One of those big underperformers, half from the top. But, around this time, it's up. So the breadth of the market has turned positive. So at least a little better getting into this.
Well, it's going to be, it's interesting. If they strike down tariffs, imagine the mood on Friday morning is going to be, and I think we will hear President Trump saying all kinds of things in the intervening period that we're going to reimpose tariffs and all of that. But generally, the understanding is that, it's much tougher to implement. And some of these sections under which now they will have to do it requires investigation.
Yeah.
And then you have to impose.
Yeah.
There is also midterms, right? Now, tariffs generally are slightly inflationary, are supposed to be inflationary. Is it possible that President Trump says, well, let me blame it on the judges, right? That they did not allow me to collect these tariffs. It serves his purpose, maybe because inflation comes off a little bit. And we'll see after midterms.
Correct.
So it's possible you get a substantive breathing space between now and of course, in terms of negotiations, if say 25%, I mean, the case right now is 25%. This Monday, the Trump administration lawyers filed in the court, this Monday, saying that if the Supreme Court strikes down, these tariffs, we will have to refund not just 25%, but any additional tariffs also. So it's not just the 25% we're talking about. Maybe it's the other 25 as well. So suddenly, the terms of how you're talking to the U.S. negotiations, etc., look very different.
True.
So it can be a very large event on Friday.
Yeah, and from hoping that it's going to happen next week, suddenly we have been hearing about 3 months, 6 months, this year, next few years, this term. So that's good, because any kind of positive trigger comes about, at least, it's pushing the can a little bit down the road. And then let's see what he does after that. But for the time being, the street, it appears, just looking at the screen, not factoring in any good news. Hopefully on Monday morning, that could possibly.
No, Sergio God is here. That phone call happened last night.
Yeah.
And today evening, it's slightly more constructive. And markets sometimes, such poor sentiment, it takes little to cause a bit of a... Now, durable or not, we'll see. But the point is that it allows a little bit of breathing space in that sense. Devin, any thoughts on this? I mean, it's a slightly near-term kind of question, but if you want to weigh in.
Yeah, Prashant, I think from the market has its own mood, actually, if you ask me. What are we looking at? A couple of things. One, of course, I think this saga-related tariff, tariff-related saga probably, needs to come under control, for sure. That is an important. It will give a breathing space. That is for sure. But more importantly, I think the market is also looking at how the currency is going to behave. Currently, the larger amount of threat is on possibility of currency depreciating. Already it has depreciated significantly. If it further depreciates, I think the further pull out of money is not ruled out. And given that situation, the consequential impact technically coming on to the Indian investor, the AMCs particularly, we have also been equally holding, some of these stocks. I think they have no choice but to protect the NAV, also sell. Adding fuel to the fire, I think that situation happens in case of such sell-off. So that is making you uncomfortable. It's a more technical situation currently than anything to do with fundamental. I believe that the fundamentals of the company, they are right in place, and maybe third quarter results would validate, I think, in most of the cases. So we remain pretty much convinced about, I think, the fundamental journey vis-a-vis the technical journey at this point of time in the market.
Okay, Deven, we'll leave the conversation here for now. Thank you very much for joining in. On the other side, we'll invite Amit Gupta of PMS Motilal Oswal Private Wealth. Stay tuned.
Fly Emirates, fly better.
Exquisite comfort, bespoke hospitality, culinary excellence. That's Air India now.
देखिए आप तो राजा हैं, बस एक आवाज लगाई और सारे काम हो जाते हैं। ऐसे ही IDFC फर्स्ट बैंक की ऐप से NRI कस्टमर्स जहां भी हैं वहां से उनके बैंकिंग के काम हो जाते हैं। फिर क्या है, घर बैठे बैठे अकाउंट खोलना हो या इंडिया में इन्वेस्टमेंट्स करने हो या फिर इंटरनेशनल नंबर पे UPI एक्टिवेट करना हो तो यहां से कर सकते हैं। ये देखिए, बात समझ गए ये भी।
जानते हैं मैं एलीट मैट्रिमोनी क्यों रिकमेंड करता हूं? 17 years of experience, largest database of elite profiles, or 100% confidentiality. Elite Matrimony, India's most successful matchmaking service for the elite.
Nice, yeah.
Hey, Mahi, suggest a cool bank जो environmentally conscious हो.
SBI, coolest है.
Really?
SBI ने लाखों पेड़ लगाए, वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट प्रोजेक्ट्स को फंड किया, EV लोन्स पे कंसेशंस दी और रेन्यूएबल एनर्जी को मैक्स सपोर्ट किया.
Wow, that's cool.
SBI, the banker to every Indian. Truly.
When our big boss was MD, he used to take care of us.
And our Prince Sahab is busy ensuring his family. Oh, big boss, you?
He's busy obtaining term insurance for his family. After all, office is also our family. Am I right?
Let's close the deal. Thank you. Verma ji, will you have tea with this prince?
LIC's Group Term Assurance Plan takes care of your office family.
India's startup dream is getting bigger and bolder than ever before. And Lead to Unicorn continues its mission to discover, mentor, and fuel the next wave of change makers. A celebration of ideas that are shaping tomorrow. Catch the journey of 6 innovative startups who are rewriting the story of enterprise in the grand finale of Lead to Unicorn Season 3 with IDFC First Bank in association with Money Control and CNBC-TV18 at these times.
Welcome back. 35 points lower, 25,700 is where we're at. We're off the lows by about 65, 70 points. Amit Gupta is head of equities, PMS, Motilal Oswal Private Wealth. Amit, good afternoon. Good to have you with us here. Would you like to answer a short-term question about Friday, Amit, based on what happens in the US today? You think it can turn the mood a little bit if these tariffs are struck down? We don't know if there's a ruling, but if it strikes down, we were just talking about it before the commercial break. It has the potential, right, to provide a substantive amount of breathing space.
So I think definitely, because market is factoring, a lot of negatives right now. So earnings growth was already a concern. Then we saw the exporters, they came in trouble. They were absorbing a lot of losses actually. There is always a fear if this continues, then they can permanently lose some of the customers. Though US export is hardly 2% of GDP, and the government is trying a lot of FTAs outside. But as far as we have understood, the export to US so far, we have got an alternative to 22 or 24% only. So if the news comes out that the tariffs are coming down, and if some kind of agreement comes in, I think it is definitely positive. Market is waiting for that. And the large caps are very attractively valued, I would say. I mean, if you look at banking, oil and gas, infrastructure, even technology, because technology also is coming under pressure if the deal is not happening. So though it does not impact it directly, but indirectly also there is a lot of nervousness, the kind of growth which can lead actually forward. So I think overall it will be positive, no doubt about this. Market is looking for such kind of announcements.
Amit, what about an individual stock that you have tanked up on? Something new or something that you had that you build on a position over here? With due disclosures, if you could share with us.
So I would say the market is getting narrow and narrower actually now. The hiding places are coming lower. Banking obviously is still is standing tall, particularly the mid-sized private banks. I think a lot of FDI is coming. And if you look at the earnings growth going forward, considering the situation that we don't see further hike in the tariffs actually going forward, our sense is that the EPS growth for the large cap private banks will be somewhere around 17-18%. If you look at the mid-sized private banks, it will be in excess of 40% also. So you are going to see a good surge there, and that is where actually some mid-sized private banks which have been consolidating for a long period, which may be one of the performing stocks in the last rally, but unfortunately the credit growth was not coming, the NIMs were under pressure. I think you will find opportunities over there. So just to take a case of City Union Bank, it was one of the best bank actually we used to see in the previous rallies, but then the things were not coming to promise. And then if you look at recently, we have seen the credit growth almost coming around 18%. Industry is growing at 11%. So they are talking about even 2 times of the industry growth in terms of credit. So I think this is something very positive which can come out. They are betting on MSME, they are betting on gold financing, and then they will be moving into the retail financing also. And we have seen the return on assets are somehow now moving above 1.5%, and they can get stabilized. So the kind of valuations they are in, I think it looks more attractive. So such kind of ideas are going to work. PSU banking is already there, which was very attractively valued before, and they have seen some kind of performance already. If you look at the slippages in PSU banks from almost 2,75,000 crore in before 2020, now it is somewhere around only 55,000 crore. So it has come down significantly. Only question is how much credit growth is going to recover. And also, though it is denied recently that FI limit can be increased in some of the PSU banks, I think consolidation is definitely there on the cards. And after that, that thing also possibly can come up.
Okay, so private banks more than PSUs right now because of the run-up we've seen in PSUs. I mean, that's the broad thrust here?
So PSU bank is definitely attractive because of the valuation part. Okay. But if you look at the earnings growth perspective, because they have a larger chunk of the bond yields also, of the bonds also, GSEC bonds also. So there the bond yields actually have a little bit surge because ultimately how much rate cut will happen, that came in the question mark. And we saw some surge, and that can lead to some kind of reversal in the treasury profits. That is the only thing. Otherwise, as if you look at the commentary from SBI, they are talking about 1 to 1.5 to 2% also increase in the credit growth on such a large size of asset base. And this is which is positive. And ultimately, you have to look at more FTAs. You have to start exporting outside, not just relying on one economy, though it's a large economy. But if the gates open up, I think it's a double positive. It's a double positive because whatever you were exporting, then you are opening gate in the adversity outside also, and that can help double way.
Yeah, 100%. Metals, Amit, what's the best bet here?
So I think initially the move started from the precious metals, gold, and then was caught up by silver. The other commodities also eventually are starting. I think it's a very strong cycle for metals. Market is looking for alternative to dollar. Eventually, till that is not coming out, the money is moving into the precious metals. And obviously, you cannot have too much of divergence between precious metals and other metals. And people are looking for real assets actually in such kind of volatile scenario. And that is the reason slowly all the commodities have started coming up. We bet big actually on copper because we realize that all the new technologies which are coming in now, they need copper. Starting from solar to wind to missiles and now data centers. Almost 30,000 ton refined copper is coming out from Hindustan Copper, and the demand is almost 65,000 tons. So I think there was a big demand supply gap. And now we are seeing the materials which are going to be used in batteries. For example, nickel, cobalt, manganese ore. I think the time is coming for them also. So nickel prices have already started moving up. I think the next in the offing is manganese ore. It can also start performing. You have some companies like Manganese Ore India Limited, Sundar Manganese. I think those kind of companies can also start participating. So yes, it's a very positive scenario for commodities, I would say. Though they don't come with less volatility, they come with very high volatility. You will have you will quite often see the weaker hands. They will be going out because of that volatility, and the people who are able to stay on that, they can make better money. So yes, this cycle you cannot avoid in the portfolios. Initially, you may have 5-10%, that can be increased to 20% also. This is what we have also done.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot for that, Amit. Look forward to chatting up with you rather soon. Well, it's that time of the show. We hop across to Hormuz, who's here to tell us about all the big movers this hour. Hormuz, take it away.
Well, a lot of movers in the broader markets today. Sector-specific moves and earnings-specific moves as well. We start off with the oil sensitives. Of course, with the oil prices continuing to rise. You take a look at ONGC, slightly off the highs of the day, as is Oil India. But no such case for Chennai Petro and for MRPL. Both of them still trading with gains of close to 5% in today's session. You take a look at the volumes as well. Well, ONGC has had almost 3 crore shares traded. Oil India has had over 1 crore, so that's 6x its 20-day average. Chennai Petro 2 and MRPL has had almost 1 crore shares traded in today's session as well. A sector that has been shining bright through the day and all through December has been the metals pack. A record high for Vedanta, record high for Nalco, 4% higher for Hindustan Zinc as well. And you take a look at the volumes, Vedanta has now had over 4 crore shares that have been traded today. The delivery volumes will be interesting to note after the end of the session. Almost 1 crore shares being the 20-day average. Nalco and Hindustan Zinc both have had 2.5 crore shares traded each, and that too is significantly higher than their respective 20-day moving averages as well. And the earnings reaction of the day has to be Union Bank of India, 8% higher on the stock now, the biggest single day gain since November of 23, the 4th straight day of gains for the stock. It has had a very positive start to the year as well, and in the last 10 sessions so far, the stock has gained in 8 of them. Today's volumes are the highest since May of 2024. We've had close to 7.5 crore shares that have been traded today compared to a 20-day average of 92 lakh shares. So significantly higher in terms of the trading volumes as well. And 2025 turned out to be the 5th straight year of positive returns for the stock. And now it's now trading at record high levels as well. Now, Jupiter Wagons is the other one among the top movers today, top gainer on the Nifty 500. It's gained 2 out of the last 3 sessions. In fact, it was a bit of an underperformer last week, declining on all 5 days. But today's session, we have had 3.5 crore shares being traded, 20-day average of 1.5 crore. The stock has moved above its 100-day moving average, which was at 314. The next level on the upside to watch is the 200-day moving average, which is at 343. And it is looking to recover some of those losses because the stock was down well over 30% in 2025.
All right, Hormi, thanks a lot for joining in and giving us that. Quick check on the F&O market. The PCR has moved back up. It's holding at around that 0.8 or thereabouts. Actually, from the start of today, it's come down a little bit. So that's one data point that we should look at. The options data, the 26,000 call, we're seeing aggressive writing on that particular front. So just keep an eye out on that one. And we are seeing that, in fact, the premium is down close to around 40% in today's trading session, as is the case with the 26,000 call, the 25,700 call, both of them, the premium is down sharply out there. Telling you the call writers, they believe that they can protect this 26,000 odd mark. Individual stocks, sale, I've been mentioning this for the last few days. The open interest is gradually coming down. maybe by Friday, this one actually should be out of the F&O band, so that comes up on your radar. Vodafone Idea yesterday took a bit of a slam dunk. Today it's back in the green. There's a bit of a short covering bounce that's playing out even out here. Well, there are signs of fresh buying on ONGC. And actually, this week itself, that's been seeing a good amount of delivery-based buying and some long build-up as well. So one wonders whether or not crude has made a near-term bottom. And if it does well, then Oil India as well as ONGC will be in focus. And Union Bank came out with a set of numbers that continues to do well. Massive open interest build-up on that name. Net, it appears we're still in the range, 500-point range, 25,500 on the downside, 26,000 on the upside. Take a short break, come back. Nimish is waiting for us on the other side. He'll tell us what's going on in D-Street Chatter. And our technical experts, they'll be back to give us some trading calls.
Got you dancing. Now we go back and forth steady with the prancing.
Everything's new except the attitude. The all-new Seltos. Badass forever.
Kia, movement that inspires.
अरे टेंशन किस बात की? सेंचुरी प्रोवुड का प्रीमियम प्लस है ना, लो एमिशन है, हाई डेंसिटी है, वाटर रेजिस्टेंट भी, टर्माइट एंड बोरो रेजिस्टेंट भी है। यानी ये है जहां नो टेंशन वहां।
Premium Plus by Century ProWood.
CNBC-TV18 tracks the pulse of markets and business in real time, bringing you the stories that shape the economy.
From breaking news to sharp analysis, we deliver insights that help you navigate businesses, markets, and investment opportunities.
Nuvama presents CNBC-TV18 Market Central,
providing sharp market intelligence for wealth creation with a commitment to doing it right.
India's startup dream is getting bigger and bolder than ever before. And Leap to Unicorn continues its mission to discover, mentor, and fuel the next wave of change makers. A celebration of ideas that are shaping tomorrow. Catch the journey of 6 innovative startups who are rewriting the story of enterprise in the grand finale of Leap to Unicorn Season 3 with IDFC First Bank in association with Money Control and CNBC-TV18 at these times.
The best investment one can make in life is finding the right life partner. That's why we created VIPshadi.com. Register now.
Look, Hector! 6x6. Are your glasses okay? It's blue. The grill is different too. So is the inside. Dad's Hector doesn't have these wheels. Guys, 6x6 is right. It is Hector. See? I told you.
With segment's first iSwipe touch gesture control and many more incredible features. The all-new MG Hector, designed to surprise.
Investments in specialized investment fund involves relatively higher risk, including potential loss of capital, liquidity risk, and market volatility. Please read all investment strategy related documents carefully before making the investment decision.
A recovery nonetheless. You have a more number of stocks advancing than declining. Let's welcome Nimesh into the show. Nimesh, tell us what you're picking up in D-Street Chatter. Yet another day, we bounce off the lows, but still the Nifty appears to be on a sticky wicket.
Yeah, absolutely, Nigel. You know, been volatile as well, right? We've seen a bit of a fall, then recovery as well. But I guess the screen is looking better because the broader markets are relatively better off today. A lot of winners in today's market, and seems to be some momentum as well from institutional investors. The net flows will be still negative, but in terms of sectors, the metals continue to outperform. You rightly explained the kind of reasons why all the metal stocks are buzzing in trade. Interestingly, a small but a bit of buying interest is back in the cement names in today's trade. So Ambuja, Ultratech, some of the large cement stocks are well bid, is what I understand from a flow perspective. So maybe some signs of bottom fishing is happening in selective sectors and stocks. So That's broadly the sense from a market perspective. I guess from a technical point of view, 25,450 is a level to watch on the downside. If that gets taken out, then maybe you'll see further selling pressure. But otherwise, it looks like it could be a range between 25,450 on the downside and maybe 2,600 on the upside. So that's a range market is playing with, at least in the very near term.
Okay, all right. Nimesh, lots of individual names on the radar as well?
Oh, absolutely. So the first stock on my list is Polycab. There was a large block in morning trade and stock has been under pressure today. But in terms of details, I understand the mutual fund was a seller in today's block and 40% of the book was bid by hedge fund. So that's a kind of detail as far as the Polycab block is concerned. Not sure whether it was a clean out trade, but I understand the domestic mutual fund was a seller in today's trade. The second stock is Inox Wing. It has corrected along with the other solar names in the last couple of weeks. But looks like the selling pressure from a leading domestic PMS is largely over and some larger HNIs have bought in today's market. That's a broad sense as far as Inox Wind is concerned. Two stocks which deserves mention and there is selling pressure is Torrent Pharma as well as HDFC Bank. HDFC Bank from the recent highs down almost 7-8%, largely on back of aggressive selling. I understand one long only fund is an aggressive seller in HDFC Bank and there are some long only funds who are seller in Torrent Pharma as well. And the last one is UPL. Again, while the stock is consolidated of late, it's off the highs, but I understand there could be some corporate development around the corner. Remember, HSBC has put out on record that maybe the Advanta IPO filing is going to come very soon, and looks like that should happen in the next few days. So that could be a big catalyst to watch out for UPL.
I mean, any idea, Nimesh, in terms of size, scale, scope, etc. for UPL? Would it be significant?
It would be significant, Prashant, because the HSBC report has mentioned that they have put out a valuation of close to $3.6 billion on an enterprise value for Advanta. The street is anticipating the IPO will be filed at a valuation of close to $4 billion. So, that could be a significant development because that would mean further deleveraging of balance sheet, and that's been the key trigger for UPL. Remember, I was reading some quarterly previews. The numbers are not going to be that great for all these companies, but for UPL particularly, the trigger is the value unlocking through the Advanta IPO, which potentially can happen in the next 1 week or so.
On HDFC Bank, Nimesh, this right?
Yeah.
There's a large fund which has been selling. I mean that continues. And any sign are they close to? Any idea?
No, Prashant. So they have a very large position in HDFC Bank. So it's very difficult to time whether they'll fully exit or they've done with the selling. But what has happened in the last 1 week, 10 days, Prashant, is there has been a shift happening from HDFC to ICICI to a larger extent ahead of the earnings and the potential announcement of the CEO. So that shift has happened within the financials, and also some bit of money is moved into other private banks and PSU banks. So within financials there is a churn, but clearly there is selling in HDFC Bank and money moving to other private banks and PSU banks.
No, absolutely. Thanks very much for that. So that's the chatter list. There's Polycab, Inox Wind, Torrent, HDFC Bank, and UPL in focus. Well, Mitesh is here with what to do in terms of short-term trading ideas. Tomorrow is a holiday. Keep that in mind. Mitesh, what do you have?
Prashant, the STBT on Kotak Bank, that's trading near the day's low. It's kind of come off from the earlier levels. So take a stop at about 426, look for targets around 412. And I have a cash stock on the BTST, which is ICICI AMC, just made a fresh high. So keep a stop below 2718. Look for targets of 2770.
Got that. Mitesh, thank you very much for that. Some short-term trading ideas with Mitesh. Markets, of course, are off the lows and they're holding. Well, yesterday, of course, we conducted our market forum and a whole host of voices across markets, economics, and of course, corporates also attended the event. Manish Shokani, Ramdev Agarwal on the way forward for markets in 2026. Listen in.
Two countries like this can't be at loggerheads for long.
Yeah.
But the fact is we don't have too many things we can, hold someone to ransom for, unlike China. And therefore it's getting dragged on until, like I said in the beginning, you're kind of now in a world of a G2 where there are two big bullies and you have to decide, you have to go in one camp. We don't want to go into either camp. And both of them are trying to, push us and prod us to fall into a camp. The better that we just stay out of these games that they're playing. And if it takes long, it's painful for the next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and for the companies and the individuals involved. But on a 10, 20-year cycle, I think what we're doing is the right thing to stand with our position and what we need to do. So I'm not so concerned about how long it takes. We spoke in Diwali, we spoke in December, so it's not changing because the calendar has changed.
Correct.
It is a tough year until earnings cross substantially double digits and come closer to mid-teens. People aren't going to come chase this market. Money has been going already to emerging markets from Korea all the way to Peru and Chile. The anti-US trade in a way has been on already. Metals have been doing well. Hard assets have been doing well. That trade continues. And I said even then that I would expect financials, hard assets, metals, and public sector, especially with the finance minister in the budget day now, a last big resource raising exercise is left is really from the PSUs. So these three would dominate this year in my sense. And if you make a double digit on the index, I'd be very, very happy. I would take it.
I think it will be better year because earnings cycle is turning for sure. Because I just saw the estimate from, we cover one of the largest number of companies here, 350 companies. So MO Universe, this quarter is expected to deliver 20% earnings growth. This is after 6 or 7 quarters. We are getting real upturn
this
in
third
the
quarter,
earnings. Yeah.
20%.
Index itself could be about 8 to 10%, but all 350 companies put together will be about 20% aggregate. So let's see what comes out. And my sense is Q4 will be even better. So I'm very kind of optimistic on the earnings cycle turning up after brief lull for last 4-5 quarters. And government is also after it. Now government is trying to put in place slow down in the credit cycle, slow down in the your credit cost. You are given fiscal benefit, you are given monetary benefit, you are given GST benefit. So government is firing all cylinders to get their nominal GDP growth going at 10-11% so they can collect taxes. They're not able to collect tax. You see the tax collection, 2-3%, 4%. So they need to get to 12-14%. So now there is a vested interest of the government to reflect the economy to about 10-12% nominal. Hopefully with 4% inflation, it could be 7-8% kind of real GDP growth rate. That GDP growth is better than 7-8% now with nominal GDP growth of 8%, deflator being 0.5%. I think that doesn't fly in India. So I think we are again back to the old style, 7%, 7 plus 4 or something like that. So I'm optimistic that this will happen in next 12 months and which will push up the earnings cycle big time. As far as the sectors, I think large caps are better chance to beat the market than the mid and small. Second, I think PSUs still have a lot of steam. They are much more reasonably valued than private sector, and earnings growth is almost 2x of private sector. So that looks to be a very interesting category. And I think financials, I think auto will be the star of the year.
Interesting conversation every time you listen to it. Mayuresh Joshi, Director Research.
Yeah. The MRPL numbers.
Sorry.
Phenomenal numbers. I mean, at least on the profit front, right? Just look at that. I mean, 50, it's what, 5x? 5x. That's the swing. And that is essentially what happens with standalone refiners. When, you know, GRMs, basically the cracks move one way and diesel cracks, etc., have been phenomenally strong, right? And look at the stock reaction as well, 10-11% higher. From the highs, both Chennai and MRPL, I think, came off very sharply. There was a bounce, but you know they're off substantially from the highs. So that I think that comfort was there, but it's just like a it swings like no one's business.
Yeah, and we asked Dayanand in the morning, right, when we were doing the preview for. So he said that yes, refining margins are strong. It's still a tactical play because you never know what's going to happen here. But globally, the capacity itself is not there. So that's why earnings could continue on that front. And since these guys have capacity as well, that's why I guess they're well placed. Both these two, as Prashant mentioned, I think MRPL had corrected more than 20% from the top. That's pulled back close to 11% today. And CPCL as well, I think from 1,050 odd, that one as well had pulled back, and now it's seeing a bit of a bounce. Mayuresh, you want to come in on either of these names? Not for the faint-hearted, as we normally say. I recall doing a piece, somewhere in August when these stocks, I think CPCL was ballpark around 700 rupees, and you had MRPL as well. That was at around 135, 140 rupees. With plenty of volatility, but there appears there is this tactical play that's playing out actually in favor of those that bought it. What's your take?
Afternoon, Nigel. No, phenomenal numbers, as Prashant mentioned. Two things, I think, as Prashant again rightfully mentioned, I think the diesel cracks, naphtha cracks have been relatively higher on a year-on-year basis. And therefore, I think when the managements probably speak, whether it's MRPL, whether it's Chennai Petro, I think the momentum in terms of how these spreads are behaving are definitely in their favor. Secondly, I think in terms of what they're probably using in terms of cleaner fuels, they use ultra low sulfur diesel, and what they probably make in terms of value-added products are significantly higher in terms of price points, which give them the added advantage in terms of fuel costs, crude costs, distillation costs remaining on the lower side, while the end product prices remaining relatively higher, which gives them those spreads reporting these numbers. So how long they will last is anybody's guess, but yes, I think the momentum seems to be on their side.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I think Sonal is ready right now with a little bit more in terms of analysis on the numbers on MRPL. Sonal, blockbuster, at least year on year.
Oh yes, year on year, a strong set, and usually for refiners we do take quarter on quarter numbers as well, but even that set is looking very strong for MRPL. Now do remember the refining cycle was very strong in the quarter gone by, and the stocks like MRPL or Chennai Petro, for instance, they're standalone refiners, so that's all they do, right? So Singapore GRMs, they were up 100% on a sequential basis, they were up on a YOY basis as well, but these numbers are much better than what the street was working with as well. Quarter on quarter, better number as well, because there are no maintenance shutdowns, and that is something which has proved to be beneficial for MRPL as well. But now do remember there are a couple of chinks in the armor in terms of crude prices going higher. We've been seeing a lot of volatility as well. So management commentary on that will be important. But yes, strong set of numbers coming in. It's almost doubling of quarters of profits on a quarter on quarter and on a YOY basis as well. So yes, the spike is something that is a reaction to the numbers, and this is much better than what the street was working with as well. MRPL is a stock which is tracked, not Chennai Petro so much, but Chennai Petro is following suit from MRPL, and that's why that spike on these stocks.
And a small read-through, I think, for even Reliance Industry is Sonal?
Oh yes, absolutely. In their auto chemicals business, we were expecting strong numbers coming in purely because of refining segment, and that just means that it would be something that we could see in Reliance. And generally, Reliance has GRMs which is at a premium to even Singapore GRMs. So we'll watch out for those numbers. Of course, will be reported on Friday.
Brilliant, Sonal. Thanks a lot for joining and giving us that update and giving us the read-through as well with regard to these MRPL numbers. Slip into a short break, come back. We'll continue to focus on markets. We'll put a couple of questions to Mayuresh as well.
With SBI, celebrations unlimited. Make every celebration special with festive offers on car, personal, gold loans and loans against mutual funds.
Thank you.
Enjoy your meal.
Neither the middle seat nor the meal is a sandwich. That's Air India now.
ये हथेलियां बड़े वादे कर जाती हैं। मासूमियत से जो पकड़े कान तो माफी पक्की समझो। जिंदगी भर साथ निभाने की कसम एक छोटी सी चुटकी।
जिंदगी के हर मोड़ पर आपका साथ देने का हम आपसे वादा करते हैं। एजेस फेडरल लाइफ इंश्योरेंस, हर वादा मुमकिन।
With Skoda Supercare and growing network across 180 plus cities, you never drive alone.
Skoda. AU करंट अकाउंट के साथ मिलता है फ्री UPI QR ओवरड्राफ्ट फैसिलिटी और एक ही ऐप से बैंक के सारे काम। AU
सोच बदलो और बैंक भी।
पढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कर आता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया।
India's startup dream is getting bigger and bolder than ever before, and Lead to Unicorn continues its mission to discover, mentor, and fuel the next wave of change makers. A celebration of ideas that are shaping tomorrow. Catch the journey of 6 innovative startups who are rewriting the story of enterprise in the grand finale of Leap to Unicorn Season 3 with IDFC First Bank in association with Money Control and CNBC-TV18 at these times.
नफीस जी 45 साल की उम्र में हार्ट अटैक से अचानक चले गए। टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस के पैसों से उनके बच्चों की पढ़ाई में सहारा मिलेगा। पॉलिसी बाजार ने क्लेम के वक्त फैमिली का पूरा साथ दिया। पॉलिसी बाजार पे 1 करोड़ का टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस सिर्फ 400 रुपए महीने से शुरू।
The best investment one can make in life is finding the right life partner. That's why we created VIPshadi.com. Register now.
लखनऊ के लिए जाने वाली अवध एक्सप्रेस प्लेटफॉर्म नंबर 2 पर आएगी। गोवा के लिए स्टार क्रूज प्लेटफॉर्म नंबर 2 से ही जाएगा।
ये सब आपको एक प्लेटफॉर्म पर मिले न मिले, पर शेयर इंडिया प्लेटफॉर्म पे आपको इक्विटीज, डेरिवेटिव्स, कमोडिटीज, इंश्योरेंस, म्यूचुअल फंड्स और एल्गो ट्रेडिंग एक साथ मिलेगी। शेयर इंडिया, डाउनलोड द ऐप नाउ।
Investments in securities markets are subject to market risks. Read all related documents carefully before investing.
Welcome back. The stock of the last few minutes is Infosys. The street is sniffing something with regard to those numbers. And the intraday chart of Infosys comes up for you on the screen. Sharp spike is what we're seeing on that particular name. Rima, you heard something? Any buzz?
No.
Anything else besides the numbers?
No. Have you? No. But also the stock was beaten down in the morning. It's not done too much since the start of the week after these guys came out with the numbers. So week to date also, I mean, just prior to this up move, stock was actually down close to about 0.5 to 1%. So maybe. And it's not that there was something very disappointing in the numbers. HCL was a beat. TCS operationally was in line. Tata Elxsi was a decent set of numbers.
So you've got your hands full, Rima. You'll be analyzing these numbers, voting tomorrow, gearing up for Reliance. Wowee.
Depressing her, yeah.
Rima starts.
I mean, a long chore of things for Rima to do.
Rima starts the earnings season and I close it. So the second
and not to forget, on Friday, I also have Tech Mahindra and Wipro.
Shireen has said, what a brilliant job you're doing, Rima. Please keep it up. All right. Well, enough of that. Let's do a quick wind down then for the markets today. We come off the lows yet again, and all through the week, that's been the trend. The markets have been bouncing off the lows. What did well today from the Nifty pack itself? Well, one of the top gainers was Tata Steel. That stock was up close to around 3.5%. In metals, they are really having a good time. Hindalco as well was up close to around 2%. NDPC and Axis Bank, both of them did well. And Axis Bank actually was a big outperformer from the banking index. Asian Paints came in for some profit taking. So a couple of sessions ago, there was some bottom fishing that we're seeing out there. That was down 2.5%.